Lance Zierlein is a draft analyst for NFL media. Where are you in your process right now in terms of how much hay is in the barn for you?
I think 345 players I've written up. I'm responsible for about 485 to 500. So a good amount.
Yeah.
A good amount. For me, probably about 65 to 70%, which after this, it gets pretty easy. A lot of these guys are not going to be draftable prospects I'm writing up. It's much, I get to find out what my kids are up to now. I haven't seen them for about 3 or 4 months. I got a call just because one of them had a wreck, ran into a stop sign.
Oh,
So
goodness.
yeah, 2 of my kids.
Ran into a stop sign.
Well, my 2 sons were in a fight in the car, ran into a stop sign. I get a call. And then, it's okay.
He's like, I stopped.
Yeah, like, hey, great. Well, I guess I'll see you guys after the combine. We'll talk about this.
Oh,
No, they saw me that night. They weren't happy to see me, trust me. And I wasn't that happy to see them, actually, come to think of it.
So what is your overarching thought about this draft?
So I can give you the NFL Network take,
Oh,
which is it's, unpredictable. And
yeah, it feels like there's a more that you even just saying that is
I think it's a draft. It's a meat and potatoes draft.
okay.
It's not going to be a sizzling, Salt Bay, crazy steak cuts and salt and flashing lights and dancing girls around the table. This is really going to be about, oh, you need a defensive tackle?
Yeah.
Great. You can get some good ones here in the 3rd, 4th round. Oh, you need a cornerback? We've got a cornerback in the 5th round that'll work for you. Running back, great year for running backs in the 2nd round, 3rd round. I think the amount of running backs, to me, one of the interesting storylines is the impact of Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson and Josh Jacobs, the running backs. So what's going to happen with running backs in the draft? Could we see 3 running backs in the 1st round? Could it be Omarion Hampton, Ashton Genty, or maybe Travion Henderson sneak in there because he's got the Jahmyr Gibbs bump? I think it's a long shot, but I don't think it's completely off the board. So this draft could be about maybe the resurgence of the running back, but it's a really deep running back class. So we could see, one of the highest numbers of running backs we've seen drafted in a single year this year.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of great stuff there, and I'm going to dig deeper into that. But I've devoted this day to asking everyone this. I'm so interested in the edge rushing position. You mentioned it's a meat and potatoes draft, a lot of good D linemen.
Right.
It feels like there's not a ton of chatter the way there is about even Travis Hunter, but certainly the quarterbacks at the top of the draft, that Abdul Carter is not a blue chip prospect. But also, everyone views this edge rushing class as a group that could have 6+ in the 1st round, So what is it that separates Carter from the rest of those 1st round level edge rushers? And how can we be sure that he's better? Or what does it show up on the tape that he's better?
Well, so he doesn't have any, his traits he's not 6'4", 270. He doesn't have J.J. Watt size, or he doesn't have this freakish this, that, or the other from a size standpoint. And he's probably not going to test. He's not going to test here. I don't know if he tested his pro day. There's a buzz that he made Marvin Harrison this thing all the way to the end of the draft.
Ooh, I don't know if that's a name to bring up right now based on the way year one went for that,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Like I always think I think it's good to just show your wares a little bit. But if the thought is he's in at number 1 and the only thing he could do is hurt himself, maybe that would be the strategy. Maybe he does try out at his pro day. I have heard that he's probably about a 4.4 40 guy. I have heard that when he's messed around with some testing stuff that was really fast. So I think what teams are going to see is a special athlete. The league is run by what happened the year or 2 previous. So the Micah Parsons bump is going to be very real for Abdul Carter. We see a guy who can bend at the edge. We see a guy who's explosive off the edge. And so while his traits are good physically, not great, they're good, they're solid. I think his athletic capabilities and then his pure burst off the edge to attack the pocket it's too good. Like you just don't want to pass up on that. It'd be interesting if he were in the draft last year where he would go. I think that'd be I haven't really gone through that process, but that would have been an interesting thought exercise. But in this year's draft, he's just a pass rusher with great athletic attributes. Is just a very safe feels like a safe pick.
So the top 5, if you had to guess right now how they would go, whether that's so-and-so trades out or maybe just these players are probably the top 5 order, and I'm not sure what teams necessarily, but should go, not would go if it was you. We'll do that separately.
Yeah, I think, Travis Hunter is in there. Whether he's a corner or wide receiver, we'll figure it out. You just get a good player. I gave him 2 grades. I wrote up 2 scouting reports for him, basically, in the same scouting report. One is his wide receiver, and one is a cornerback. His grade as a wide receiver is like a 6.77, which would have been in the top 5 of last year's draft. His grade as a cornerback is, I think, a 6.83, which would have made him like the 3rd highest player in last year's draft. So he's in there. I think you're going to have Cam Ward for sure is going to be in there. It's just too much quarterback need. He's got a lot of athletic ability. You are going to have, I don't know for sure that Shedeur Sanders goes. I think Ashton Genty is a real wild card because he's so high up the board as a player.
5.
That's the thing, is we saw it with Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
Will we see it again? I don't know, but it's not a super, like I said, it's not a super splashy draft. And then you have, I'm trying to think who
Mason
else.
Graham, does he go that high?
Maybe, but I don't see him as a top 5 type player.
Okay.
But he's a safe player. Tyler Warren is a safe player. Yeah. So right now it becomes about, are we going to, I'm looking at the typical, Mason Graham probably, even though I think Walter Nolan is for me the better player.
Okay.
On tape. But the safer player, Tetairoa McMillan for me is not a wide receiver that I would take that high. It's very tough for me because I don't see the type of guys that fit there. And that's why my problem is Jalen Walker be really high to go that high in the 5th round. It's really a complicated draft. If you don't, for me, you're going to draft a tight end higher than you want, a running back higher than you want, or you're going to trade back and try to add picks, because a draft, the further back it goes, the better it goes. The more realistic the payout for the draft grade you have is on those players.
Right. So you are the preeminent and most historical writer at this point on NFL.com. So as a data scientist, as a nerd like me, we like digging in to the words and modeling the words that you use. And talking to Thomas Dimitroff, our president, those words have real meaning in front offices, in public, in the scouting community. What are some of the words that carry the most weight that you like to use in your scouting reports?
Well, I mean, I always think of, my dad was an NFL offensive line coach. In college, it's what he is. And I'm part of the selection committee for the Joe Moore Awards, which is the best offensive line in college football. And so for me, words like grit, strain, that is when you are playing, like, there's a level of mental toughness and fortitude and not give up, that attitude, the never say die, don't give up, do everything you can until the last possible second. Strain and grit have a lot of meaning to me. I think explosiveness is it can mean, if you're a running back, explosiveness can mean, that's a really good question. I've never really thought about this, because I guess subconsciously, explosive for a linebacker a lot of times means how you get off the mark, how you hit someone. For a wide receiver, explosive can mean your ability to hit chunk plays. For a running back, it means speed, but it also means contact, your acceleration into contact. So explosive is one that can have different types of meanings, but it's always positive for a variety of positions. Grit, strain, I think long is a descriptor, but this league, you'll see a lot of people will try to diminish it when they want to, kind of use a player as an exception. And that's fine. Rashawn Slater's a great tackle. He's not a long tackle, 33-inch arms. You typically want 34 or more. But when you tell me a player is long, well, if you're a cornerback, the difference between 2 inches on a wingspan and not having the 2 inches can be deflecting a pass. If you tell me a pass rusher's long, it's easier from a leverage standpoint to get around a blocker. A long linebacker, when he hits, he's better, has a better ability to wrap up as opposed to lose that tackle. The more you study film, you start realizing, man, long players have huge advantages in so many different ways. So I think length and long is another one of those words as well.
Before we let you go, I just want to get real quickly, because I asked you who you thought was going to go at the top, and you seem to have like concerns about a few of them, or not like completely like I'm not as excited. Right. Who are you excited about? Who are the people that you
Here
actually?
In general.
What do you mean? Not at the combine, in the draft.
Just in general.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the guys I'm really excited. Well, see, I'm kind of nerdy where I get excited about RJ Giddings, this safety out of Clemson that I can't find another team to get excited about. I'm like, what do y'all not like? He tackles great. He's got good size. His dad was an NFL cornerback in the NFL. You know, he's been, he comes from Clemson, a good football school, and they tell me he's not going to run great. Okay, but he's going to be a good player. He's got great instincts. See, I'm weird. Michael Williams.
I don't think that's weird.
That's not weird, because now
you're like,
our artificial intelligence database and find out everything about him and see
what
if he truly is a standout guy. Because typically we find the nerdy things that the film people catch is the exact things that we've trained our AI to look at. And when it matches up, it's so beautiful. It's so perfect.
So look, to be a first three-round player, you need to have certain physical or athletic attributes. Mm-hmm. They say all sins are forgiven in the fourth round, including character issues, things like that. Well, I loved I'm trying to remember his name, the linebacker who came out of Oklahoma State that's with the Lions now.
Malcolm Rodriguez.
I loved him. One of my favorite players to study on tape. You watch tape and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. He knows where the play's going every time. He never misses tackles. He's so instinctive. That's what I saw with RJ Giddings. I liked watching Elijah Badger, I think it's Elijah. It's Badger. He's the wide receiver from Florida. I'm sitting here watching, and I'm like, man, it's like a kid playing flag football when he's got the ball in his hands. He's so slippery, you can't catch him. He's unorthodox. And he has these sudden hands to grab the ball. It doesn't look like a lot of the other guys, and a lot of times it doesn't come to fruition. But there are some times where I get it right, where these guys that I love in the 4th, 5th, 6th round end up becoming really good players. So for me, the guys that I get excited about is I want to see, am I better than does my eye top the NFL teams I talk to? And they tell me, no, I wouldn't do. I want to see guys who I say, yes, what I saw and my background knowledge of traits and this, that, and the other, and football IQ. And I want to see if when I'm higher than the league, that I end up being right on that.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm not. But when I am, I get pretty excited about it.
Am I better than consensus? This is the fun game at this time of year, right?
Exactly.
Lance Zierlein, so good talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. Where can people find your work?
You can follow me on Twitter. That's not really my work. If you want to follow my work,
links to your work, I'm sure.
Yeah, it does. But I would go to just NFL.com, and if that website's not great in terms of user interface, I would Google. Well, I mean, you just have to deal with it sometimes.
I Google as an analyst every year.
I know, it's hard to find.
Scouting report, NFL.com, Lance Zierlein.
That's
plus the player. Go do that.
I'm a
it
keyword.
Hits every time for
so
me.
What I do is what you can do right now is just do Combine Tracker or Draft Tracker, NFL Draft Tracker. You'll find all my scouting reports that way.